Ever tried selling a perfectly good item online, only to quickly realize half your city is operating on a single brain cell? Welcome to the absolute worst place on the internet. Today, we are looking at 55 of the most rage-filled, mind-numbing Craigslist complaints ever posted. These are real people throwing massive adult tantrums over basic logic and simple transactions. Hit that like button right now, because you are about to completely lose whatever faith you had left in society. 1. Selling garden equipment on Craigslist is basically a front-row seat to a circus of total insanity. A homeowner sold a perfectly functional older lawnmower for $20 to a local guy who seemed normal enough. 3 months later, the buyer sent a furious, all-caps email demanding a full refund plus interest because the grass in his yard grew back too fast. He genuinely tried to argue that the mower was defective because it did not permanently kill the weeds. 2. Buying used furniture online is a quick way to discover how little common sense exists in the world. A woman bought a gorgeous mahogany bookshelf for $50, but when she arrived, she threw an absolute fit because the shelves were empty. She genuinely thought her money included the massive encyclopedia set and vintage novels shown in the reference photo. She fiercely threatened to call the police for bait and switch. 3. Searching for decent housing online is a total nightmare, but dealing with the actual people offering it is somehow even worse. A renter posted a scathing rant about her new landlord who rented out a spare room in his very own house. Her massive grievance was that he dared to use his private kitchen to cook dinner after 7 at night. The smell of roasting chicken offended her delicate senses, so she formally demanded a hefty rent reduction for severe emotional distress. 4. Trading items is a classic staple of local classifieds, but some people have absolutely zero grasp of real market value. A seller listed a brand new gaming console for standard retail price. He was immediately hit with furious insults from a guy offering to trade a half-empty bottle of cheap cologne and a broken weed whacker. When declined, the guy went on a rant about greedy modern society, boldly claiming his rusted yard equipment was actually a rare vintage collectible. 5. Posting a local job ad opens the floodgates to pure entitlement. A small bakery owner was urgently hiring a morning cashier and received a furious multi-paragraph email from an applicant who was deeply offended by the schedule. The candidate was absolutely livid that the bakery did not provide a personal daily driver to pick him up at 4 in the morning. He publicly accused the small business of severe discrimination against people who simply refused to take the public bus. 6. Basic reading comprehension is clearly not a requirement for using the internet these days. Someone eagerly bought a flat-screen television that was heavily discounted and explicitly labeled in bold letters as completely dead. 2 days later, they flooded the poor seller with angry texts, screaming that the dark screen simply would not turn on when plugged into the wall. Have you ever had to slowly explain to a fully grown adult what the word broken actually means? 7. Giving away a litter of puppies for free usually brings out the best in people, but one Craigslist user had the exact opposite experience. A woman was vetting potential families for her lab mix puppies when one guy became absolutely ballistic because she would not also provide a year's supply of expensive organic dog food. He actually went on a public tirade calling her an animal hater for giving away a living creature without providing a full lifetime scholarship for its meals. 8. Hiring cheap local labor online is always a massive financial gamble, but this specific guy truly took the cake. A self-proclaimed master residential plumber responded to an urgent ad to fix a badly leaking sink. He confidently showed up with absolutely nothing but a half-used roll of duct tape and one severely rusty wrench. When asked where his actual working tools were, the handyman threw a massive tantrum, complaining that clients expect way too much for $20 an hour. 9. A highly stressed bride-to-be went absolutely ballistic on a community forum after failing to find a professional photographer for her destination wedding. She was not offering hard cash, but rather the rare opportunity of pure exposure on her social media account, which boasted roughly 200 sleepy followers. She posted a lengthy complaint publicly calling local working artists terribly greedy for refusing to work a grueling 14-hour shift just for a single slice of dry cake. 10. A self-proclaimed antique collector tried to sell a crumpled $1 bill for $5 because the serial number had 3 sevens in it. When people started making fun of the listing, he went on a massive tirade about how the internet has no respect for rare currency and historical artifacts. He genuinely believed he was sitting on a gold mine and called everyone who laughed a broke peasant who didn't understand high-stakes investing. Who is actually buying a dollar for $5? 11. Selling large furniture usually ends with a masterclass in terrible physics. A guy listed a massive solid oak dining table, only for the buyer to show up driving a tiny two-door sedan. When the 6-foot slab of wood obviously failed to magically fold into the back seat, the buyer threw a massive screaming fit right in the driveway. She genuinely demanded the seller pay for a Home Depot rental truck out of his own pocket, because the original listing failed to specifically state that solid wood does not bend. 12. Trading vehicles online is a magnet for the absolute most delusional members of society. One dude was trying to sell his dependable Toyota Tacoma for a very reasonable cash price. He received a furious, profanity-laced email from a guy who was deeply offended that his trade offer was rejected. What was this incredible offer? A broken above-ground pool, 3 half-empty tubs of protein powder, and an iguana. He called the seller a greedy capitalist for turning down such a lucrative investment. 13. Finding local gigs often reveals the absolute worst side of the local workforce. A busy nurse posted a simple ad offering $25 an hour for someone to walk her golden retriever twice a week. An applicant went absolutely nuclear in her inbox upon discovering that picking up the dog waste was actually part of the job description. The furious dog walker claimed her aura was far too pure to handle biological material and threatened to report the nurse to the labor board for creating a toxic work environment. 14. Hiring a handyman from the services section is a classic mistake. One homeowner hired a guy to paint her front door, only for him to show up with a single can of spray paint and no masking tape. When she told him to stop before he ruined the siding, he threw a massive tantrum and claimed her high standards were an insult to his artistic vision. He even tried to bill her for the emotional labor of having to listen to her feedback and for the wear and tear on his finger from the spray nozzle. 15. Retail stores have return policies, but the local classifieds definitely do not. A dude sold a heavy 8-year-old plasma television for $40 just to get rid of it. 6 full months later, he received a highly aggressive message from the buyer threatening to take him to small claims court because the screen finally burned out. The guy was dead serious about enforcing a lifetime warranty on a garage sale electronic. How fast would you block this absolute clown? 16. A woman in Chicago posted a furious rant after getting rejected from a beautiful downtown apartment. Her fatal mistake? She explicitly told the current tenant that she refuses to use headphones while watching loud action movies at 3 in the morning, claiming it disrupts her creative energy. When told that would not work, she publicly labeled the poor girl an oppressive dictator who absolutely hates independent art. 17. A guy listed a working refrigerator in the free section, just wanting someone to haul it out of his garage. Less than an hour later, he receives an angry message from a woman demanding he personally deliver it 40 miles away. When politely refused, she threatened to report him for false advertising because the ad clearly said free, and paying for her own gas isn't free. She genuinely expected a complimentary moving service for a free kitchen appliance. 18. Purchasing secondhand clothing online rarely comes with a magical lifetime guarantee. A bitter woman bought a cheap, slightly torn vintage wedding dress for exactly $20 and wore it to her own backyard ceremony. 2 entire years later, she viciously attacked the seller online, blaming the heavily stained fabric for ruining her short marriage. She strongly believed the cheap lace carried a severe negative aura and angrily demanded they cover the cost of her expensive weekly couples therapy. 19. Taking a tour of a potential rental unit usually involves checking water pressure or looking for hidden mold. One prospective tenant viewed a beautiful loft and immediately wrote a devastating public review, completely destroying the landlord's reputation. The massive problem? The apartment was located exactly 1 block away from a premium bakery, and the tenant furiously claimed the daily morning smell of fresh croissants was a direct malicious attack on her strict summer diet. Would you even know how to respond to that level of crazy? 20. Selling lawn equipment is practically an invitation to get scammed by the neighborhood handyman. A guy sold a brand new riding mower at a heavy discount. The buyer took it home, mowed his entire massive 5-acre property, and then aggressively demanded a full refund the very next morning. His completely serious excuse was that the bright green paint color aggressively clashed with his custom garage aesthetic. Would you politely take the dirty mower back, or simply laugh directly in his face and lock the front door? 21. Imagine buying a rusty 1998 Honda Civic for $800 and expecting a luxury dealership experience. One buyer drove away in a rattling beater car sold explicitly as is, only to furiously email the seller 2 weeks later demanding a full refund. Why? Because the air conditioning finally stopped blowing cold. He threatened a massive lawsuit over a vehicle that cost less than basic tires. Would you even bother replying to a crazy message like that? 22. Giving away items for absolutely nothing still manages to make people furiously angry. One generous dude posted a perfectly functional smart television on the free page because he was moving. The person who claimed it texted him completely outraged 2 days later. The massive issue was that the original owner logged out of his personal Netflix and Hulu accounts before handing it over. The buyer actually demanded the login passwords, claiming a free television is totally useless without free streaming attached to it. 23. Test driving a used vehicle brings out some of the weirdest deal breakers imaginable. A local seller allowed a guy to take his well-maintained Ford Taurus for a quick spin around the neighborhood. The prospective buyer pulled directly into a fast food drive-thru, ordered a massive gallon-sized soda, and immediately lost his mind when the plastic cup did not fit into the center console. He stormed back, aggressively demanding a $2,000 discount to compensate for the emotional damage of a spilled beverage. 24. Finding the perfect apartment is tough, but rejecting a place for this specific reason is just pure insanity. A prospective tenant toured a highly affordable basement apartment and instantly fell in love with a friendly golden retriever playing in the backyard. The landlord later received a massive, insulting essay explaining why the tenant was backing out. The absolute deal breaker was discovering that the dog belonged to the homeowner and would not permanently relocate into the basement as a complimentary furry roommate. 25. Bartering in the digital age is an absolute joke. Someone listed a brand new iPhone, still perfectly sealed in the factory box, for a fair cash price. They quickly received an aggressive message from a local teenager offering a highly offensive trade. He wanted to swap the expensive phone for a rusty bicycle missing the front wheel and an expired gift card to a local steakhouse. When the seller obviously laughed at the offer, the kid wrote a scathing public post, calling the seller an elite snob who hates local culture. 26. Winter weather brings out the absolute peak of entitlement in suburban neighborhoods. A high school kid posted a simple ad offering to shovel driveways for $20 a pop after a massive blizzard. One angry homeowner agreed to the price, watched the kid work in freezing temperatures for an hour, and then flatly refused to pay. His absurd justification was that the sun was going to melt the snow by next Tuesday anyway. Would you let that slide, or simply shovel all the snow right back onto his front porch? 27. Hiring a mobile mechanic off the internet is a desperate move that rarely pays off. A guy hired a cheap neighborhood grease monkey to change his brake pads right in his driveway. The mechanic showed up, jacked up the car, and then angrily knocked on the front door demanding to borrow a socket wrench. When the homeowner said he did not own one, the mechanic threw a massive tantrum, cursed him out for being totally unprepared, and literally left the car stranded on cinder blocks. 28. Reselling outdoor festival tickets is a nightmare when buyers fundamentally do not understand how weather works. A guy sold 2 wristbands for a massive summer music festival at a steep loss just to get rid of them. The entire weekend was completely ruined by a massive thunderstorm, and the angry buyer immediately demanded the seller refund the cash. She loudly argued that since the seller originally bought the tickets, he was personally responsible for ensuring the weekend had plenty of sunshine and perfectly clear skies. 29. Selling used clothing on Craigslist is a special kind of nightmare involving people with extreme entitlement. A girl sold a designer winter coat for $10, only for the buyer to return the next day screaming that it was too warm for the current weather. She demanded the seller pay for her dry cleaning bill and provide a lighter jacket as a free exchange for the psychological distress of sweating. Would you give her the money back or just close the door in her face? 30. Hiring local babysitters is always a gamble, but sometimes the parents are the actual nightmare. A college student took a gig watching a sleeping infant for 5 hours on a quiet Friday night. The parents came home and furiously refused to pay her the agreed $80. They checked their hidden living room camera and were deeply offended that the babysitter quietly watched a cooking show on low volume instead of staring directly at the crib without blinking for the entire duration of the 5-hour shift. 31. Have you ever gone out of your way to return a lost wallet? One Good Samaritan found a designer purse abandoned in a grocery store parking lot and tracked down the owner using her driver license. Instead of a simple thank you, the woman filed a furious online rant, accusing the finder of stealing her luck. She claimed that touching the expensive leather with average working-class hands permanently ruined the energetic vibration of the bag. Would you just toss it in the nearest trash can next time? 32. Seeking a peaceful living environment took a bizarre turn when a guy posted a desperate ad for a new roommate. His previous tenant packed up his bags at midnight and left a massive, rage-filled manifesto on the kitchen island. The main grievance was completely unhinged. He stated the homeowner's elderly pug aggressively judged him while he ate his morning cereal. He genuinely classified the animal's heavy breathing as severe emotional intimidation and expected the dog to wear a blindfold. 33. Tutoring local kids usually means dealing with helicopter parents, but this one deserves a gold medal in pure delusion. A college student was hired off the site to help a struggling high schooler with basic algebra. After 3 weeks of intense sessions, the mother flatly refused to pay the final bill. Her logic was completely mind-blowing. She argued that since her son still got a C- on his final exam, the tutor was legally obligated to buy the kid theme park tickets to make up for the academic trauma. 34. A local photographer offered a discounted family portrait session, only to have a mother go completely ballistic in the comments section. Her massive grievance was that the photographer refused to digitally remove her husband's ex-wife from all the historical family photos they already owned. She claimed that because she was paying for a new session, she was entitled to a full rewrite of the family history through the power of professional photo editing. She even called the photographer a hater of modern families. 35. Hosting a yard sale is like inviting every local lunatic to judge your personal belongings for a nickel. One woman posted a complaint about a guy who showed up 3 hours before the official start time and started peeking through her kitchen windows. When she told him to go away, he wrote a scathing community post warning people that the sale was a front for a secret government surveillance operation. How do these people manage to function in a normal society? 36. Flipping vintage clothing is a popular side hustle until you meet a buyer who lacks basic self-awareness. A girl sold a pair of authentic 1990s denim jeans to a local buyer who stubbornly insisted she was a size 2. 3 hours later, the seller's inbox exploded with angry caps lock messages. The buyer had ripped the pants clean in half trying to squat in them and boldly accused the seller of secretly shrinking the fabric using dark magic. Would you even try to argue or just block her immediately? 37. Offering your personal pickup truck for moving gigs is practically begging for a massive mental breakdown. A guy agreed to help a couple move a mattress across town for $50. When he arrived, they had 0 boxes packed and pointed to a massive, fully assembled backyard trampoline. They genuinely expected him to strap the entire bouncy contraption to his roof and drive it down the interstate. When he refused to risk a massive highway pileup, they called the local police to report him for contract fraud. 38. Adopting a rescue animal is supposed to be a heartwarming experience, but one local listing went completely off the rails. A woman was giving away a beautiful parrot because she was moving overseas. The incredibly insane catch? The furious owner demanded the new family legally change their last name to match the bird's original family so the parrot would not suffer a sudden identity crisis. She explicitly required a signed legal document proving they visited the courthouse before showing the cage. 39. Trading homemade goods seems wholesome until the bartering logic completely falls apart. A local baker offered 3 dozen custom cupcakes in exchange for a functioning lawnmower. One guy showed up holding a single half-eaten jar of artisan pickles and got incredibly angry when she quickly turned him away. He spent the next 3 days creating fake accounts to leave comments on her posts, loudly arguing that fermented vegetables have a significantly higher spiritual value than processed sugar and flour. 40. The barter section is where logic goes to die, a very slow and painful death. A teenager listed his high-end gaming laptop for a reasonable price, hoping for a quick cash sale. Instead, he got a message from a man offering to trade a bucket of live crawfish and a signed photo of a local weather reporter from the 1990s. When the kid declined, the man sent a furious rant about how Gen Z has no respect for local history or high-quality seafood. 41. Giving away natural resources online will quickly make you lose faith in humanity. A homeowner cut down a massive dead pine tree and offered the giant logs for free to anyone with a chainsaw. A guy showed up in a pristine luxury SUV, stared at the massive wooden trunks, and started screaming. He left a scathing public rant because the homeowner refused to chop the wood into perfect fireplace-sized pieces and neatly stack it in his clean leather trunk for $0. 42. Hiring a freelance mechanic from the services section is a gamble that usually ends with a tow truck and a massive headache. One guy hired a self-proclaimed master technician to fix a simple starter motor in his driveway. The mechanic showed up late, took the entire engine apart, and then left a furious note on the windshield saying the car was too greasy to work on. He still had the audacity to send a bill for $300 for the diagnostic trauma. 43. The barter economy on this website defies every known law of mathematics. A woman listed a pristine acoustic guitar, hoping to trade for a decent laptop for her college classes. She received an incredibly aggressive email from a local guy wanting to swap a live, highly aggressive pet raccoon and a half-eaten bag of marshmallows. When she obviously declined, he launched into a massive written rant about how corporate greed has permanently destroyed the beautiful art of traditional neighborhood trading. 44. Selling a cheap used car is basically an open invitation to get completely harassed. A seller unloaded a heavily dented 20-year-old minivan for $500 cash. The buyer drove it straight to a high-end luxury detailing shop, then sent the seller a furious invoice for $3,000. He argued that since the ad claimed the van had good bones, the seller was legally responsible for making the exterior look like it just rolled off a factory assembly line. 45. Hiring amateur handymen from the community board usually ends in disaster, but this one is pure comedy. A homeowner hired a guy to assemble a basic flat-pack bookshelf. The worker spent 6 hours sweating over the manual, built the entire thing completely backwards, and then aggressively demanded double his hourly rate. His justification was that his unique avant-garde construction method turned a cheap piece of particle board into a priceless modern art sculpture. Would you just hand him the money to make him leave? 46. The local sneaker resale market is packed with the absolute worst kind of scammers. A collector sold a pair of rare brand new Jordans for $300 cash in a grocery store parking lot. 2 days later, the buyer sent a furious string of text messages demanding a full refund. He wore the bright white shoes to a muddy outdoor music festival, completely trashed them, and boldly claimed the seller scammed him by selling defective fabric that magically attracts dirt. 47. Dealing with tech-illiterate buyers will drain your soul faster than anything else on the internet. A teenager sold a perfectly working computer monitor to an older gentleman. The next morning, his phone exploded with angry voicemails. The buyer was threatening to sue him for wire fraud because the screen did not magically provide free high-speed internet when he plugged it directly into the wall. He actually thought a piece of glass generated a wireless internet signal out of thin air. 48. Even the pet supplies category is filled with completely deranged individuals. A woman was giving away a massive glass aquarium after her turtle outgrew it. The person who came to pick it up threw a massive tantrum in her driveway because the tank was empty. She furiously complained that the listing was highly deceptive, because she naturally assumed the free glass box came fully stocked with rare tropical fish and a lifetime supply of imported aquatic food. 49. Missed connections often cross the line from mildly awkward to downright terrifying. A guy posted a highly detailed, furious rant directed at a woman he saw eating a burrito at a taco truck. He was incredibly angry that she ordered extra hot sauce, claiming her spicy food tolerance was a massive red flag that proved she was too rebellious to be a submissive wife. He demanded she return to the truck the next day and publicly apologize. Are these people actually walking around among us? 50. Trying to sell antique furniture guarantees you will interact with the local paranormal community. A seller listed a beautiful Victorian vanity mirror and sold it for full asking price. 2 weeks later, the buyer sent a heavily capitalized, rage-filled email. She completely blamed the mirror for her husband filing for divorce, claiming the reflective glass held a demonic entity that specifically whispered financial secrets to him. She furiously demanded the seller pay her upcoming alimony out of pocket to settle the spiritual debt. 51. A college student listed a practically new sectional sofa for $50 just to get it out of his apartment before his lease ended. A local guy messaged him completely furious that the couch was located on the 3rd floor of a building with no elevator. He aggressively demanded the student carry the entire piece of furniture down the stairs, load it into the buyer's truck, and knock $20 off the asking price to compensate him for the physical inconvenience of driving over there. 52. Renting a spare room out brings in the absolute worst candidates imaginable. A homeowner posted a scathing rant on the community board after a prospective tenant showed up for a quick tour. The applicant boldly demanded that the actual owner of the house leave the property from 9 to 5 every single day. Why? Because the renter worked from home and claimed seeing another human being in the hallway severely disrupted his corporate workflow. Can you imagine trying to ban a landlord from his own kitchen? 53. Giving away leftover building materials will instantly make you hate your local neighbors. A guy finished a backyard patio project and offered a heavy stack of perfectly good paving stones for free on the curb. The next morning, a self-proclaimed professional flipper was violently banging on his front door. The guy was actually yelling because a few of the free stones had dry mud on them, and he demanded the homeowner bring out a power washer to clean them before he would accept the donation. 54. Selling a reliable used truck means dealing with the absolute lowest tier of local negotiators. One seller firmly listed his Chevy Silverado for $6,000 cash only. He received a massive, insult-filled email from a teenager offering to trade 2 dirt bikes with missing engines and a large collection of replica samurai swords. When the seller hit ignore, the kid sent 4 more messages calling him a pathetic coward who was secretly terrified of handling real authentic weaponry. 55. Hiring a random guy with a pickup truck to help you move is always a massive gamble. A woman hired a local dude off the services board to transport a single mattress 3 miles down the road. He showed up 2 hours late, tied the mattress to his roof with a single piece of thin twine, and immediately lost it on the interstate. Instead of apologizing, he furiously demanded she pay him double for the extreme physical danger he faced pulling over to retrieve her garbage from oncoming traffic. That wraps up our look at the most unhinged minds of local online classifieds. Now I want to hear from you. What is the absolute most insulting, brain-dead offer or complaint you have ever personally received while trying to sell something on the internet? Drop your absolute worst stories in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button for more daily madness, and leave a like if you are never trying to sell a used couch to a stranger ever again.